Hi, everybody. I am Litecoin Lisa. You guys also know me as Lisa Mighty Davis, and that name came from my amazing daughter, Mighty Mia. We have a family foundation, and we honor her life every year. And this year, we are going to be having an event, the Team Mighty Freedom event, Freedom Celebration, and we are honoring a champion and a warrior this year. And Xqueer and the Road to Ruta crew are our champions. And my dad, my pops, is our warrior this year. We're asking you to come join us in Oklahoma City. You can get your tickets if you go to teammighty22.eventbrite.com, and you'll learn more there. So you guys join us in Oklahoma City. Come to my hometown and hear about freedom and the inspiring story of Mighty Mia. We'd love to see you there. Hi, guys. Welcome to the World Blockchain Roundtable. I hope everyone will join us in Oklahoma City. Today is, I'm so excited about today. Today is our 61st episode, and our hosts for today are Dave from Den.Social, Joe, founder and architect of Dragon Chain, Satoshi Sean, entrepreneur and everybody's friend, especially mine. Chris Rice will join us later from Rice TVX, and I am Lisa Mighty Davis, Master of Ceremonies, also the Grand Poobah today. Quick updates on the WBRT layer ownership tokens lot distribution from last week's episode. Each host from last week will receive 133 lot. Each topic contributor from last week will receive 33 lot. Last week's theme on raising capital was suggested by Greg, and he will receive 33 lot. These ownership tokens come with perpetual passive income, free edits, and governance votes. Let's see. The WBRT DAO result. Oh, do I keep reading all this?
Yeah.
Okay. This is a lot of information.
I can go over this part if you want.
You can go over this part, Joe.
Yeah. So there was a DAO vote to allow anonymous posting, and it was I might have even suggested it. Yeah, it was me. Mostly to see if anybody would ask questions that they wouldn't want to ask under their identified account. But there would be no way to reward them. That's why, so anyway, it passed, it was approved. So now any anonymous post earning will go to the layer. And I don't know if we're going to do what we're going to do with a lot. We probably need to have a vote to do that, and maybe just not award that lot, or just not count any anonymous question. That can be something we would have to ask. And then there is a current vote for the August theme suggestion, which will be completed. It's due by Monday. And there's another vote to allow hosts to post content. And I think that might have even been something you requested, right? To allow hosts to post general content about their things in the in WBRT layer. So you can keep going now.
Okay. And I don't know if that was in. That's where I almost wish there was a discussion on the proposals.
You can discuss them below. You can also,
okay.
If you want, you can post a discuss. Like a lot of times on some of the other layers, we'll post if it's especially if you don't know what all the options should be. You say, hey, we're thinking about this. What should be the options? What would you got? And then people can weigh in, and you don't miss anything. But it usually then takes another few days or a week.
Okay.
So I wondered sometimes it's best just to do like this if it's pretty simple, and let people weigh in and say, I'm totally against this, it's horrible, whatever.
Yes.
And then you say, I'll change my vote before it expires and vote against it too.
And then go another direction with it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It all works. I voted for it, so it's good.
Okay.
Me too, I think. If not, I should do that right now. Or did it already pass?
It's still there. So it's not resolved yet.
All right. Going in.
Okay, so we covered all of that to allow the host. Okay, so the theme this week is DAOs as constitutional city-states, nominated by me, Lisa Mighty Davis. So
And thank you too, because this is a great topic.
Yes.
I've been calling it the Citadel episode.
Yes, I think it's really timely with where we are as a nation right now. Well, globally, even the world right now is kind of upside down, and people are kind of deciding whether they want to play ball or not with their local government. So let's see, where was I? I was going to go into my Den. Let me go into my Den and make sure. Oh, I'm not logged in. Oh, yes, I am.
Well, and one thing that I really like this topic because it seems like DAOs might be the answer to the problems in the political world that has not been and potentially can't be stopped. They don't have an answer to it. The powers that be, there is, which is one of the things that they are so scared about. So you have to be careful about a cornered wild animal. But when there's an answer to something that citizens can really use, you imagine if it was the mid or late 18th century. You bet that the founding fathers would have been all about DAOs. I mean, that would have been the way to get out of a lot of the issues that they had in the day of that gigantic 3% tax or whatever they had that they fought against. So.
Do we want to do current events? I know we do start
Yes.
with current events. I know we're really excited about talking about this subject, but we kind of jumped right over.
Well, I think, like you said, there's so many things going on today, like in Holland with the farmers.
Yeah.
I think part of the big problem is just like I've said, politicians they don't matter anymore. Because of the party system, like before they used to run and like, this is my family and I like this and my wife likes this and now it just doesn't matter. Everybody votes according to party. It's just 100%. The politician is literally, it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
I think it's about to break down though.
What bugs me specifically about that is like people are very much. Yeah, it is breaking down a little bit, but locally, I've been trying to, put my money in my mouth where what's the phrase? I've been trying to do the things, walk the walk. Yeah. So I've been really paying attention to local elections more because like that's something that can have such a direct influence in everyone's life that fewer people participate in. A lot of people and I've been guilty of, like, I move around a lot. So I often don't even know like who's in my town because I just got there a year or two ago. So anyway, I'm hometown Gainesville. There's no reason not to know what's going on. And I met a guy who I like a lot. And we talked about, whatever. We got redistricted, rezoned. We got probably gerrymandered. I don't know. And so he was coming to meet all of his new constituents, potentially. He's running for my district. And so we had this long conversation, went into cryptocurrency a little bit, as I do, and, local concerns and all that. Really good feeling about the guy. He's wrong about a few things, but that's fine. And then, so like I ordered a sign. He's like, can I put a sign in your yard? I was like, go for it. Put a sign. You're way better than the other options, So you know what the sign is? Vote blue. And I was like, that's not what I was getting at.
No.
It literally is a sign that says vote blue. And I'm like, fuck, man. That's not, I like you.
For yourself. Yeah.
I'm not here for the party. I'm here for the party, but not the political.
It's a machine. It's a machine. They gave them those signs, right?
Yeah.
So
Well, I was really surprised. We were at an event and actually it was just a birthday party for some friends. And there was this guy there and he was telling me how he's a lobbyist and works for this group and whatever. And he's just hounding this young, to me as a kid in his 20s, whatever. And he's talking about how, this group and, whatever, they want these people that really just are mostly mindless, don't really have an opinion, that they have the money and the opinion, and then they just take somebody that's just a puppet and they're going to implant their opinion and money into and make them be. And I was like, you're not even, because I was trying to have a conversation with him about like, so, what kind of things do you put your money behind? What is this lobbyist group looking for? What kind of people are you trying to, support? Like, I've got some friends that are actually running for things and whatever, that are really trying to make some changes. And he was like, oh, no. Like, they want the mindless person, and I think that's, as we get into the DAO conversation later, that's where I get excited about those kind of things, because this money running the world. And I also think there's risks of that being dangerous there too, or depending on how it's set up. Whoever raises the most money wins, because you can get the most advertising and get in front of the people that are also asleep, I guess.
So they have to be, right? For money and advertising to work the way that it does, people have to be asleep. There's no way that you're using your brain when you vote for the people that you've been exposed to the most. Yeah. And just because, I recognize this, and that seems like people say that's a person.
It has been set up though for generations. Even through my entire life, it's been a horse race mentality. It hasn't been, here are the issues, here's where this person stands, here's where that person stands. It is literally, oh my gosh, this person is ahead of that person. They're polling at this. And that should be the stuff that the people on the inside care about. It shouldn't be the stuff that I, as a citizen voting, care about. I don't care who's in the lead. I care about what the issues are. But they're driving it that way. And they're driving it that way so that they can make it, because they're getting the advertising dollars, number one, the same media. But it goes beyond that. It's all about control. It's like, if we do this, we can control we have all the levers in front of us. And all they have to do is have somebody poll, and guess how fixed the polls are. I mean, all the polls are fixed as well. So, all they have to do is show that, and everybody thinks, oh, that person's going to win.
That's why I'm so excited about this kind of tech that we're always talking about, is because, like, how the hell do you really know what's real? In today's, like, how do you, it's one thing, like, I don't know, there's extremes, I guess, but really, if everything's on a screen and everything's on the TV and everything's on a device that fundamentally, where do you have, how can the average person independently verify data unless they spend an exorbitant amount of money and resources and time? Like, you can, sure, it's not impossible to do, but it's impossible to reasonably do for a lot of people. And so you just kind of ingest what's shown to you. So that's sad, but it's also something that's addressable.
That's like, I sent you, Dave, I sent you a video because your wife is from Germany, and I asked, I was like, is this, can you verify? Is this really happening in Germany? And, we even had that Twitter post where somebody said, these are not fire trucks in Holland or
license
in the Netherlands.
Plate's the wrong color, right? Yeah,
because the license plate was the wrong color. Yeah, and it was a friend of mine that watches my show, and I was like, "How do you know?" And he's like, "Because I live over here in the Netherlands, and those are the wrong license plates."
And even when I asked my wife, I was like, "Hey, you know what? One of my friends had a good question, and I posed it to her. I was like, "Hey, anybody in your family know what's going on over there? Because there's reports of Germans joining the Dutch farmers in support of them and yada yada, but that's mostly on the border and stuff." Mm-hmm. And she was like, "We don't really live near that particular border, so I don't know. Like, we have the same information you do."
Can you imagine that too? And that's a small country in comparison to here, right? So,
sure, yeah.
And by the way, in other current events, we should cover the stuff with library, which I've not had to look into yet, but apparently really good, hopeful news.
A handful of stuff in the last hour that popped in. Yeah.
Well, I wanted to kind of finish that. That's what I was talking about.
Okay.
It doesn't matter who they are anymore. Because they just vote party line. I've told Lisa, if there's a person that votes for a terrible thing that like kills puppies and is terrible for the environment and is awful, but it's good for the people in its district. If it's like everyone has to use coal, but they represent Pennsylvania. Whatever it is, I can respect that because they're doing their job, voting for their district, not voting for what's best for the environment or for what's best for whoever. It's what's best for the people they represent. That I can respect. It's fine, but it's not that way. If you elect a Democrat, they're going to vote like 99% of the time along that party line. So and we were warned by our founding fathers that this could take down the republic if you have a party system. Don't have a party system. There's so many things that they just told us, don't do this. This could break it, and we just did it
immediately.
Yeah, and I a lot of people, I can sympathize with, I guess, younger people because I'm one of the younger people. But a lot of the education growing up, there's a lot of shit I had to go back and read that I was never taught, that I had to go back and learn.
Imagine that.
I mean? Like, and you're right. Like that's like some of the things that we do today were specifically outlined by the founding fathers as, okay, like a republic, if you can keep it kind of thing, but more specific than that, here's how you can lose it. And there's specific items, whether it's in the Constitution or whether it's in the, what are the letters called? The Federalist Papers and stuff like that, where it's like, oh no, this will end us if this ever happens. And then here we are, that kind of thing. So that part, the Federalist Papers aren't taught and not in Florida, know? So
yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. It's disgusting.
But, the library thing's interesting. And also just to throw it out there in case we want to talk about it, I would just pulled up, good old Google News, good old, what do you want me to know about news? And apparently there's, so Biden's got the COVID.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
He also mumbled something about having cancer.
Oh, really?
What?
The prime minister of Italy has resigned today. Yeah. And
they're dropping like flies.
Well, and Ivana Trump has a funeral, so too bad that happened.
Michael Obama's mother died yesterday, or was found. Her Lhasa Apso had consumed most of her body, was what the article that I was found.
So yeah, like heads of like state and stuff,
bizarre.
Things happening, weird.
And Alex Jones is saying that they're going to get rid of Biden before his term's out too. So
I'm interested in that because I don't know, as somebody who infamously had voted for the guy myself, I don't know if so it's traditional for whoever's in their first presidency to rerun, you know what I mean? Like, and that the party doesn't run against them. But Biden, like again, I don't know, man. Like, are you really? Is it an insult to like? Are they afraid of insulting some tradition by not running Biden again?
No,
I don't know. But I don't think I've seen that where a one-term president decided to not run again in my lifetime. I'm sure it's happened, but like usually it's they at least try to get that second term. But I don't think it's a good idea, and I don't think that the left thinks it's a good idea to run Biden again for a second term. So I don't know what they're going to do. It wasn't a good idea to run him in the first term.
He's out before his first term because they have to expose that Kamala is not a legitimate, because she was an anchor baby. Her parents are not citizens.
Do your parents have to be though, or is it just you? I thought it was just the individual.
Yeah, I don't think she's. I don't.
Natural born is a weird definition. Yeah. I don't even know. They'll probably change the definition to it.
I think it will bring all that up.
Now, strategically, I can see that. I can see pushing Biden out because he's sick or he has cancer or whatever. And Kamala would reasonly have a better chance than Biden. Not that she's a good pick or anything, but like I can see playing up a lot of things about, catering to certain demographics.
Russia is a bigger country next to the Ukraine, which is a smaller country. And so Russia, which is the bigger country, invaded Ukraine, which is a smaller country. And that's bad. We don't like that. So anyway, that's our foreign policy upcoming. But for some reason, Alex Jones mentioned Gavin Newsom, right?
I was going to say, Gavin, they're pushing Gavin Newsom and Kamala Harris.
They really like his hair, I
Which
guess.
is just,
Hmm.
I mean, you had
Probably
a
about the only
recall
thing
vote.
good about him.
Literally, why would you pick that person?
He's controlled. That's why. But anyway, let's not get too far. That's for the red
Yeah,
pill.
we're
episode, if we
speculating
ever
on
get
future
that.
events, not talking about current ones. That's right.
I'm just going to take a drink.
Yes. So, I don't know.
So
I
let's
don't
talk
think I
about
have
the
any
library
others.
thing
but-
then.
Yeah, library.
Library.
Because I just found out about it and I just read the, I guess the tweet.
It's not final. It's not final, but the SEC was forced to admit that what was it, a majority or a great portion of library usage was utility and not speculative, or something similar to that, right? Which is amazing for them to admit, right? And in fact, amazing, frankly, for library to accomplish when they're competing against YouTube, who everybody knows that SEC going after library is likely tied to money from YouTube, that somebody from YouTube, Google, essentially does not want library to exist, right? It has
There's no
to
other
be
reason to target them.
And,
and
by the way, I
pick
mentioned
them out of the field of things to decide to target. You know what I mean?
Right.
That
And by the
particular
way,
company, you know,
Right. Yeah. I mentioned before the show that I had just rewatched because I wanted to see what he said, the Mashinsky interview on Super Happy, Dragon Lucky, right? And on the same show, Crypto Crow was on there. And he's awesome. It was pretty funny, in fact. Funny guy. And yet in that, I asked about live, why, because it was during the time, it was right after one of the big crypto bans on YouTube, where they just banned all crypto shows, right? And we were kind of worried, are we going to be banned or not? And nobody watches us, so it didn't matter. And one way or another, he mentioned that, well, that's all where all the money is. That's why they're there. Like, but I was just like, guys, and I know this is broadcast to library, right? YouTube already, deflates all of our numbers. I mean, they don't put anything in there that isn't real. I know that none of those are inflated, right? We're already, however it works, going against the grain with their algorithm. They don't want us to trend, right? Any of these particular types of information, anything about DAOs, anything else, they're not going to push, right? And I'm wondering why crypto people aren't just saying, holy shit, this is a working alternative. Why the hell are they not all there? Like, why is that not just the thing? Exclusive content only on library. Why is that not a thing?
They don't have a good chat. There's not a good mechanism for community.
Really? So we need to, okay.
And they don't have, it's difficult to, I've had at least 2 channels over there. It's not as, it's not the same.
Yeah, but there aren't as many people. But YouTube chat is horrific. You go through any videos you like, and it's just toxic BS from people. It's almost like they trained 1,000 robots to be totally retarded, and then send them in there because
to use that word anymore.
All of the comments on YouTube are trash, right?
It's funny you say that, Lisa. My wife just found out yesterday.
Yeah.
So she's been in the U.S. for a long time at this point. English is better than mine. She's been here like 5-7 years, I don't know. But last night she's reading something, and it was for work, and there's some kind of training thing, and it said the R word, like literally the R word though, right? And she asked me from across the room. She was like, "What's the R word? What does this mean?"
Funny.
And so we're going through, and I'm like, I don't know. And I guess maybe retarded is the word you're not supposed to say. And she was like, "Oh, we can't say that?" And I was like, "No, I don't think that's like politically correct anymore." And she was like, "Well, what do you say?" And I'm like, "I think you just don't admit that it's a thing."
It's so funny. They have the powers that be have 26 chances they can eliminate 26 words from our lexicon. Essentially, it's like, okay, we have an N word, we have an R word, we have an S word, we have a
that's interesting. The alphabet,
a C word. Anyway, I was just wondering that because it seems like it's a working, like Den is not perfect. And we ourselves want to put streaming video in there. We just haven't had an absolute priority yet to do that, right?
Streaming is huge, and then the live chat with the streaming is where the community really grows, and then that's where, so from there we have piggybacked. That's where most of our community, that then we do meetups and really meet each other in person. So we stream live, and then we have the live chat, and people get to know each other. And that's why I try to be consistent with what time that I'm always live, 4 p.m. Central every weekday, so that my community can all be there. They all talk. Sometimes I don't even think they're listening to me half the time. I think they're all just visiting with each other over in the chat. Yeah.
We've got a good crew, Lisa, because I've been in that chat.
We have an amazing, and they share a lot of information with each other, like really, really smart people. And then we have a Telegram group. So they're talking all week with each other, sharing information as well.
And by the way, thanks for sharing our stuff in there, because everybody who has come over they're all really good people. They're not the toxic ones. So it's pretty good.
Well, and like you were saying in chat, that's how I know Tom's in chat with us right now today. And that's where I know him from, is from dropping into your chat. And yeah, there's a great camaraderie in chat over there for sure.
Yeah. And then they'll come to like our meetups, or they're coming to the Oklahoma City event, all those kind of things. So those are that's where community grows. And so when you're talking about like where are the crypto people, those are the people that are really living the crypto life, that are all in. But we need that community piece. And so when your library just doesn't have that live streaming and the live chat, it's very
take note, Dave. That's something for the streaming is like that. It makes sense, really makes sense, because
well, think about when we're out in society, and like we're bumping into people, and I mean, my daughter just got married, and we wanted to have a little something at the house, and I go through to invite some people, and I'm like, oh, they don't talk to me anymore, and they don't talk to me anymore, and they don't talk to me anymore. Like, these are people I like raise my children with and stuff, but because of the Jabberwockies and the things, the great infection the last couple years has really just changed people, myself included. So when you find that community of people that like, enough is enough, and I'm tired of being quiet, and I'm not going to be quiet, and I'm going to say what I think. And if you don't like it, then that's okay. But I'm not going to go through this period of time, and my children and my grandchildren are going to say, what did you do, when this happened to America? And what did you do when this happened to the world? I'm not going to say I did nothing.
That's great.
I shut up and I put a mask on and I stayed home. No.
And I think that I did. It's changed the way that I think too. Mostly it's changed the way that, not the way I feel about other people so much as the way that I feel or think or understand the way that other people think, I guess. Like the demonstration of where people stand, like where the line in the sand is, and how they think about things, and how quickly they will regurgitate anything. It surprised me to see some people say some things that are so obviously like exactly phrased the way you read it on the TV, and now it's like your opinion.
You don't know that there is so much that blows my mind. I was in 8th grade and read 1984 because it was 1984 for book report, right? In 8th grade, right? And it blows my mind how much of that is now here with the literal doublethink. And I'm not going to mention what these issues are, but where you will literally have people say things they know are not true. They will say them, they know they're not true, yet it's programmed. Oh, well, it's a totally different meaning. It means this. And I think that's how they relate it, but they know it's not true, but they say it and they believe it. And it would be a sin for them not to believe it. And that's where we're at. And that's doublethink, literally.
Well,
and it's total mind control.
I was listing this study that showed the stats on, strokes and miscarriages, and the recent spike and all these things. And the comments on it were, well, if people would just get, poked. And I was like, What? That's what you think?
I think that it's, and on the same token, I think that there's a lot of assumptions on both sides too about, like, and I guess I talk about this a lot, but this idea of this binary thinking, no gradients, no other options besides the 1 and the 0 or the left and the right, and or the vax or the no vax or the whatever, and like there could be a lot of reasons for more strokes. It could be that people are more lethargic because they're stuck in their house and they don't go out and exercise anymore, so they get blood clots and they get, like there could be reasons, and that are associated with
25-year-old soccer players.
No, I'm not saying that. I will never say that the vaccinations don't cause any adverse side effects, because I've taken them and I've had issues and I still have issues, and I'm going to a cardiologist to find out if it's related or what it should do. Like I'm not going to say, like, just from personal experience, there's no way I can say, oh yeah, you know what? Everything they said about it being 100% safe, just go with that. I can't say that. Now I don't know, like, because there's no data, right, to inspect. Right. There's no research data to look at. In fact, that's being locked up for 75 years, so we can't look at it. So like there's a lot of weird shit going on, and I don't know all the answers, but it's absurd to me that people think they do. I guess that's my point.
It's also absurd to not admit that's crazy. We're not going to give this data out for 75 years. That's
crazy. I think that's the same, for some reason, that's the same amount of time that Disney can hold a copyright on Mickey Mouse, right? It's like they keep extending that because they own all the senators, so that you can't use Mickey Mouse on a t-shirt, even though it by now would have been public domain. And it's going to be the same thing with the vaccination data. I think it's hilarious.
Yeah. And then by the time it comes out, it's going to be like, I don't know. I won't even go there. I guess it'll just be old. It'll be old and irrelevant because of human lifespans.
Well, I will say
it'll come out. It'll be, a lot of like things will be true, and everyone will be like, "Yeah, we knew that. Yeah, I knew it."
Yeah, I don't think they have 75 years. I don't think their window of time is that long. I think it's going to come out before that, because I think the entire structure of this is not going to last what they're trying to do right now. They're clamping down so hard, and people, at some point, you get to a smaller and smaller section of the population that will just say, okay. And people after a while will start to, when the Netherlands is doing this, you have to think, wait, they've gone too far. So it's coming. Something's coming. But anyway.
Yes, indeed.
Enough.
Do we go on? We go to the questions?
We can. I was just trying to think of something else that's hyper relevant at the moment, but there's a lot, but I didn't know what to pick out.
I think we hit it on the head. I think we got it. I wanted to definitely. Do we start with the very first question, or do we go into Greg's dissertation?
Yeah. No. I mean, I don't know. I mean,
what's the best way to do this, guys?
Gosh, I mean, definitely a question.
Well, typically we just ask the question.
I'll tell you, because if you take his dissertation, then I'm just going to do that from now on. I won't show up and I'll just write a dissertation. You'll have to read all of my stuff. Okay. And I probably will get my word in. Yeah, I'll get my word in, and that's not probably the way we should do it. I think, because we answer questions. Like, say, I think if we want to summarize Greg's, I don't want to make it a show where we're reading, myself, this is my vote, that I think, if you're not here, you can answer questions, but that's there. It's posted. So
all right.
Anyway, sorry, sorry, Greg.
Everybody can go to Den.Social and read Greg's phone it in.
And I'm okay to say, look at him and say, because there are probably some pretty good points, right?
He's chiming in, so we'll touch on it. But Kratos, God of Boy, and he posts on here a lot. I've read several of his questions and his comments, but he says, imagine for a second that crypto has been widely accepted everywhere and full adoption has already occurred. Politicians are controlled by DAOs and actually work. Should I stop there or keep going? Sorry. Actually work and answer to the people they represent. If this actually was the case, how might our government, the USA, be run, and how would you set up the DAOs for the Senate and the House of Representatives? So just talking about the Senate and the House of Representatives, how should it be set up in the structure of a DAO?
I'll go first because I was primed yesterday from I Am For I Am came on the coffee show, and we talked about this specifically. Well, not in the context of WBRT, but the idea of having politicians, governed by a DAO. Like if a politician was like, I'm going to go in and I'm going to vote this way on this thing because of these reasons. Let's say it's a proposal in Den. You know what I mean? They got their, name of the politician DAO, and then the constituents can weigh in directly in a way that we never could before with this type of tech, and they can vote the way that, like, if the DAO chose how the politician voted, they would be directly voting in the way that the constituents want them to, and it would be interesting because with the influences in office, when people come to you and say, hey, we want you to vote this way, or just do this for the party, or why don't you just fall in line with what we want to do, he can point at something and be like, no, I have to vote like this because this is directly what my constituents said that I should do, and so it could enable a sort of like direct representation, provable representation that is interesting anyway. So
I would think you would want to step back and reanalyze that whole thing. That if you look at the way that the House and Senate was originally set up, that the Senate wasn't a direct representation. It was voted in by your representatives in your state. So, and further, the same thing with the electors for the president, that it was an indirect vote, right? And that was on purpose. And it was so that the Senate was supposed to be the state's representation, not the people's representation in some odd, I only get 2 per state, even the small states get 2. It's because the states were members of the union, and the states therefore had representation in that house, right? And I look at it like, say, with Den, where we separate votes by contexts or roles, right? That we in Den DAO, we have the creator role that has a set of votes that includes the matter, which is the creator token, liquidity, but it also includes the behavior. And then the owner vote, which is the people who hold lore, liquidity, and the people who hold lot, which is ownership of the various layers. And then we have the founders vote, right, which is the people who are creating it, and hopefully that'll expand later and become more and more people building. But if you broke it down in a ways, and you have to look at what behaviors do we want to look at, and we've written a whole thing on this way back in the past, a couple of years ago, where I even called out the fact that one of the big issues that we have is people right now have a vote, and there is no real clear behavioral side to it, that I have one vote. So obviously I'm going to vote to go to war against those bastards because the media is telling me how evil they are and how they hold these weapons and they're mean to their people. Yes, let's go to war. It's all manipulative, right? What it likely should be, something that's missing from our current system, is the funding side of it. That is, if I'm a student, right, I do have a vote. I can vote, sure, let's go to war. But at the same time, they say, okay, give us the money to fund that. And it's like, well, no, I'm not going to give you my money. I don't care about war enough. And guess what? All of a sudden, you become a very peace-loving country when people have to fund it themselves, and when it's not an infinitely mintable currency that the Federal Reserve can print, right? That then goes into the pockets of all the military-industrial complex. So you have to think about it in that way. If it was every single action that the government would take in our interest, supposed, would have to, number one, be approved, but number two, be funded by people who are actually paying taxes, right? So that way I could say, you know what, of all of my tax dollars, I don't want any of it to go to that. I don't want it to go to cancer research. I want it to go to building that park and building that bridge, right? Now all of a sudden you have a real reason to pay taxes and have the transparency that my money is actually going there. And it's not going to all this crap that, that was some pet project, some idiot politician, right? So it's that type of stuff. I think they just need to reanalyze it. And, I don't know if you'd ever get it at a nation state level. But there are some interesting things in Europe. I think it was it was pirate something. There was a system that effectively allowed you to proxy your votes. It was pre cryptocurrency, but it was essentially saying, I want to vote for anytime there's an issue that comes up about this topic, I'm going to proxy my vote to this person. So it was a clearer, more a higher resolution representation that I could vote myself, direct democracy. But if I don't know about that subject, I'll trust this guy to vote, where I want, things.
That's really interesting. Like being able to proxy or delegate to somebody that, because if you have a reason to want to take this person's word over your own because you just know that they're typically more knowledgeable about it. That's interesting.
But otherwise, why have a representative? Why not have the DAO do the thing, right?
That's what I was wondering is, do we even need the person there if the DAO is set up with all those mechanisms, the ones and the zeros,
I was hopeful after 9/11 that they would decide, oh, you know what? Everybody was afraid of the threat of cutting the head off of the beast. That if we have everybody in DC, for one thing, the fact that everyone's in DC, we lost Sean, means that the lobbyists have all this power because they can just walk around between offices in the same building.
Super easy to do that,
and shoot their money out. Whereas if you instead said, nope, every representative has to be in their district with an address that anybody could walk into from that that is represented.
This is why I like local politics and stuff, is because I can go talk to the mayor, potentially. I can go talk to my district representative, but I guess to the point of why do you need the representative at all? If there's DAO controlling it, why doesn't it just do the thing? And I guess my answer to that would be so that it's compatible with the current system. Now, in a world where we want to replace the current system with a better system, sure, you don't need them necessarily to do that particular role. But right now, you need to kind of have it to where, okay, the system's still in place, but just bolting it on, you would need some sort of way for them to be held accountable, so that if they don't go in the direction that the DAO chooses, that they're instantly repealed immediately or something.
What that seems like a really good. I hadn't thought about that. That seems like a really good angle. We've talked to people about potentially making a DAO pack where it would be a pack that drives the creation of DAOs. And effectively does things in communities, gets rid of the red light cameras by using the existing infrastructure to lobby against and to pay for new candidates. As a PAC, it's a political action committee, but it would be a DAO, right? That's one. But what if you just said, hey, here is an up and coming political critical thinker, someone who is really thinking about these issues. Why wouldn't they just create a DAO? And that would be the way they fund. Their own PAC would be a DAO. And so they would be very tied and everything would be captured on chain. And effectively, hey, I'm going to put this issue out. What should I be focused on? How should I vote on this big vote? All of these.
That's pretty interesting because Elon recently talked about wanting to start a PAC, what did he call it? A moderate PAC, for people that are not extremist on one way or the other kind of thing. Something, I don't know what his deal is, but that would be, hey, go do that, Elon. Make it a DAO. That's actually really interesting. Yeah, the PAC itself is as a DAO. Yeah,
because everybody knows, say, and you could point to many you could point to many politicians, in fact, that just pop up on the national stage. They've never gone through the political. They were a bartender before or something else. I'm not going to mention who, right? But somebody's behind these people. Right, that they're controlled, they're fed what they're supposed to say. They I'm sure they bring something to it as well. But why not do that with a DAO, or at least make it transparent?
I don't want to get too ahead of our questions, but I wrote some of the questions. So that's where, how do you prevent a DAO from becoming that same way? Because, a DAO has members and the members are vetted by having, an identity. But you could have multiple identities in a DAO. And it can also be the person that has the most money, that can fund the most, could have the most vote, which is kind of the same way we have things now. So how does a DAO really fix the problem that we have now? How does it change? How do you structure it to where it's not the same problem as the old problem? Yes, please.
Please do.
Because I've written a whole bunch of stuff on that. That's the entire basis of what we call behavior tech, and it wasn't intended only for DAOs. The behavior tech, the main intent was to take the things that people recognize about cryptocurrency and blockchain, where you can effectively drive a community to FOMO, to do all of the thing, you're incentivized to promote, you're incentivized to do certain things. And if we can steer those towards other behaviors, which can be valuable to businesses or other things that but put everything on chain, so it's all transparent, it's all provable, so that it's directly comparable to some a different person's behavior. So one way or another, we can rank those behaviors, you can weight them, you can tune them later once you realize, I didn't even think about doing, and this is even something like in manufacturing that, okay, I go through step A to D, and for some reason somebody added a middle step that wasn't there before, and it radically improves everything. That we can analyze it. You can do big data stuff and see that this is an improvement. So now we're going to tie an incentive for everybody to do that. When you're talking about that, when we applied it to DAOs with Den, it became a very interesting thing, because all of a sudden it is the direct answer. I mean, we've had Larry Sanger on here, founder of Wikipedia, and that was his take on it forever, probably still is, that he hates, he doesn't like thinking about using blockchain. Because I tried to get him to consider using Dragon Chain for his new structure for online encyclopedias, because what he saw happen at Wikipedia, in his opinion, I think, and in mine, destroyed Wikipedia. Their culture is toxic, and it's controlled, and it's all a facade. The whole, there's a ton of activity behind the scenes that is against their terms, but they allow, because all of their creators do it. And we've even been, you basically pay someone to make a change, or to vote on a change. And if you have enough money, it happens. And so his whole thing was, with crypto, it's going to be worse, because the people with the most money can just control it. And so our answer was behavior, where, like, say in Den, you can control certain aspects with the tokens, but that's good for the community, which will attract more people. But the other pieces are behavior. So by all means, if you want to try to control that, then you're going to have to follow these behaviors and do these things which improve the network, which is going to make it really hard to destroy. So you're effectively working against yourself to destroy the network. And it all matter, the mapping and the identification of what behaviors are needed and what behaviors aren't, you don't want, is paramount. That's the most important thing. But in my opinion, that's the answer to these DAOs. If you can identify what behaviors will improve the general goals, whatever that org's goals are, and which ones will be antithetical to it, then there you go. And so, anyway,
do you think you could do that in a state or a government structure?
Yes, because it could be I'm paying the most taxes, so I have weight, but I don't do anything else, right? Whereas somebody else, I do the most volunteer work, so I'm going out and helping all this other stuff, so that's on chain. Now I get weight as much as the person who put in that much money.
I'm
and if you're
a
doing
landowner, or I work, or I volunteer, like you said, or whatever.
Yeah, like in Gainesville, I would love for that to be like maps to who goes out to clean up all the creek beds, and who goes out to clean up the springs, and who goes out to keep and honestly, for a municipality, or however you say it, that's kind of brilliant, because what if you didn't need to hire street sweepers? because people would just go do it so that they had more of a say in what happens in their own city.
And the people who have money wouldn't care
or
because
any
that
other
makes
thing,
that money go further.
wise, you know?
It's making the entire thing more efficient. And by the way, I guess it is a byproduct because this wasn't even intended. But when we've been in a project recently and considering whether we needed to open up a Discord group, that it was amazing to me because they were talking about, oh, we have to have this, we have to have this, we have to have this. And, some of the things, okay, it's just something about the way Discord is used. But the one that was most jarring was going back to the days when on Telegram, we had to have 24/7 staffing for moderation. And on Den, we have no moderators, right? It's all people are cleaning up the roads on Den without us paying them.
Yeah. And with Den specifically, like so coming out of Telegram, or Reddit or Slack or, other channels, Den, if you look at it if you're one of the lot holders and you go and look at all your settings and all the different complicated things you could potentially do, a lot of the layers keep all that just turned off. You know what I mean? Because Den was built with the expectation that people are going to try to come in and screw stuff up and be, assholes. And you need some way to manage that without a 24/7 hired staff. Right. Mm-hmm. And luckily so far we haven't needed to use it a whole lot, but there's like it was built to scale from day one. You know what I mean? So I'm kind of, I don't want to invite it, but I've been kind of looking forward to seeing
it's coming. It'll go in waves. In waves of adoption.
It's interesting because people will have problems in some of the layers, and I'll just mention, hey, go turn this one setting on and see how that helps. And they're like, oh, that makes sense. Yeah. And then the problematic people didn't even have to be identified because this is like behavioral reputation stuff. So it's like, oh, they just went away because they got caught up in this reputation filter. And it wasn't about, it wasn't targeting them individually. It was just like, no, in this layer, in this community, we don't do that. That's all.
And by the way, the world-changing adoption for blockchain is when something where you end up with cities or counties or locals actually adopting this tech in their infrastructure, right? So, if we started it with the campaigns and with the politicians, it'd be great. But the goal should be to get the cities to do this like we described, because it would just be, for one thing, if nothing else, even if it weren't more efficient, it would be more transparent. And generally, I would think that transparency will lead to the efficiency, because that's the thing we don't have right now. I remember when we lived out east, and I'm not going to say what county or city we were in, but I was floored when I looked through, and I can't remember, I had to look through for something because something pissed me off. And I was like, why are they doing that? And I started looking through the public papers. It was theoretically transparent, but that they were spending absurd amounts of money on building little huts in parks and stuff, that it was obvious that someone with a construction company had an in with somebody in the local.
Had a contract.
Oh, dude,
how in the world would it be that expensive? Yeah, it's everywhere.
Yeah, in my city, that's a big deal right now, because you can call it gentrification, or you can call it the good old boy system and tax evasion, or there's a lot of things you could call it. But there's incentives right now being abused by developers who want to offset their taxes into an investment so that they can then profit from that investment and then take all the gains and then pay their taxes and stuff like that. And the way that they're written are supposed to be, and conception wise, it's supposed to be to benefit certain parts of town that need development investment, whether it's impoverished or food deserts or low income or whatever. But we live in a university town, and right downtown around the university, there's a bunch of students who live here, and on paper are low income on paper, right? But they're riding around in a Porsche and going out to eat every night. You know what I mean? So on paper, the developers can use this area to develop in, even though it's not an area that needs development. And they're wiping out local businesses. They're wiping out local communities and building these cookie cutter student housing buildings where there are, right next door, there's people that are just it's that classic gentrification thing where right next door, there's people whose whose legacy is there. Their whole family history is in that house. And now their taxes are going up and they can't afford to live there much longer because of this type of development. So it's hurting the people that it was supposed to help. So accountability, transparency, that kind of thing. Yeah. And the guy I was talking about earlier, I was trying to talk to him about what you were just saying, Joe, which is, this is technology that needs to be integrated into the infrastructure of cities to make them better and more efficient and things like that. And as open-minded as the guy was, I just couldn't get past that point of like, but Bitcoin dirty, bad energy use, that kind of thing, And I even tried to be like, okay, uses a lot of energy. What are we doing right now with all of the energy from the power district, with the power plants that are over, you realize we have to waste energy to keep a stable grid. What are we doing with all that extra energy? Why aren't we capturing it and reinvesting it into the city?
Yeah.
And he was like,
ask him where the electricity
nothing,
for his electric car comes from.
And meanwhile, everyone is bitching about GRU's power bills. We all saw it last month. Rates are going up. They tried to build a bio plant, and it just made everything cost more money. Like there's huge inefficiencies in our power energy grid. And here's a technology that can maybe not fix it, but it can completely turn the clock back about how much waste we have right now and how much excess energy uses we have that isn't being used to then reinvest in the infrastructure to make it better and things like that. But you can't get to step 4 without getting to step 2, which is realizing that there's something that can be done. Even you just don't see it on the face. There's a lot going on under the hood of Bitcoin that isn't just useless. What do they call it? Useless proof of work or something, as if it's useless, that getting past that point itself.
Can anyone tell me why? Can anyone tell me why? I hadn't thought of this before, but why has Musk not started a new entity to promote and implement nuclear? Because he could lobby his way into multiple places in his positioning. He could then say that the Teslas are using green energy wherever they are.
But he can't, because the messaging, right? The messaging, the talking points are that nuclear is not green energy. Nuclear is not good. It is bad. It is dirty. It is toxic. It is dangerous. Right. Of course it is. But that is the prescribed messaging, And this is, I was watching one of these becoming more and more frequent Project Veritas videos, I guess, recordings about that's the next wave with CNN, is that they're going to focus on climate change, which they should. That's fine. But the way they're doing it is this is going to be going on for a long time. So we can milk that for years. This COVID thing is going to go away or just be a non-issue. And we're going to just lose, we're going to lose that narrative.
Haven't
so
we got to
switch to something else.
They've already milked it.
You know what I mean? And so there's
my understanding that nuclear energy is actually really clean. And they're conflating nuclear energy and nuclear weapons, and that's where. But once again, the sheeple.
Well, you remember in the 70s they had China syndrome and all the they were trying to scare people about nuclear back then, and that was the beginning of it. They didn't want it for some reason because it's cheap. It's
actually cheap and clean.
Yeah.
I just watched a documentary yesterday, and this lady is trying to fight it, and so her and her kids, they went and swam in the water around one of the nuclear things, and she's trying to tell people how actually safe it is, the reactors and all this stuff.
That was my favorite fishing hole when I was in it wasn't a nuclear plant, but it was the cooling that coils that went into the river, in the Elizabeth River. It was called the Hot Ditch. If you're ever in the Elizabeth River by Norfolk, go fishing over in the Hot Ditch. That's where they're all at. But yeah, I think what I've heard has been, Fukushima, the Ukrainian one. And, people point out these disasters that happened as a result of not being built right, So if you build them right, they're fine. And speaking of Musk, I think I think SpaceX should go into nuclear power. And they just build everything dangerous inside of a starship. If anything happens, just launch that bitch into space. The end of problem. Get it out of here. No meltdown.
The Dragon chain should go into nuclear power.
There's applications. Definitely.
There we go.
Even safety applications, and back to how do you trust the data? How do you know what data to trust? You know, that kind of
Yeah.
thing, especially in an adversarial like cyber war. Come on.
There we go.
Yeah.
So Dragon Chain Hodler says, how much power can a city DAO or state DAO take, extract from the current power structure, and what would be fair game? All of it. Take everything.
All of it.
Yeah, why not?
I noticed a theme in some of these
Right.
questions, which I've thought too, which is like, can this even happen? You know what I mean? Can DAOs as city states, can that be a thing?
I think it's the future.
Is there a
I
path
think,
to that, like realistically?
yeah.
Can I bring up something? So often we've gone in, and it's sometimes it's a normal enterprise thing or a normal startup thing. You know, it's a business focused conversation, but we get these edges where, okay, if there were no rules, we would build this, and it's always for the right reasons, so that, you know, I would say, at least typically, that, you know, we want to make money in this startup, and we want to provide this for our customers, and we want to grow this part of the industry or something else, right? So, you know, the typical things you'd think for a business, you know, and getting in before somebody else, and essentially, you know, being the first out there. That's always the driver. But it's really funny to me that anytime something approaches the regulatory world, and I'm not even just talking about cryptos and tokens and the SEC, I'm talking about anything where there's a regulation that we can't do X, Y, or Z, right? It's a funny thing to me because in order that we have to register, you know, how we can't do this. We can, you know, they always say, well, we'd love to do it, but we can't do it because you have to do this over here. And I'm always, it kills me because this, although you can create a parallel universe, what I like to call it, you know, it is something that people can get together and build something that does something outside of all of these rules that are there, because this isn't new, you know, and
they're always
it's
asking
not
for
bad.
permission kind of thing.
Yeah, that's the funniest thing to me, though, is like, say, on the registration, look, is there a form you can fill out? Yes. Is there a place that you can essentially register to do whatever the thing is that is defined, that we're not, you know, is not something undefined? This is actually set out in law that you have to do this. And they're like, well, yes. And I was like, well, why in God's name couldn't you still do that? All we're doing is saying we're doing the crap that people are writing in a spreadsheet and having 20 accountants go over day after day, and you're just putting it on a ledger instead. You're still going to do the same reporting that you would do in a traditional world, and the same registrations you do in a traditional world, and yet you can now do these things in an automated way, in a more transparent way. Why would you not do that? And it's always that too often these projects, especially in the crypto world, will defer to the lawyers because of fear. And so you have tons of projects that could be radically better than they are if they were run with real engineering, but instead they're deferring to the lawyers, and the lawyers, instead of trying to figure out how to fit the two systems, will define, nope, you can't do X, you can't do Y, you can't do Z. And it kills me, because it's like the entire blockchain industry could be further along, but the lawyers know there's a lot of money to be had.
You know, that made me just think about, man, is you just brought up DAO, a DAO as a pack, or a pack as a DAO.
Yeah.
Pack DAO.
Yeah.
I'm going to say something that a lot of regulators probably wouldn't like, but I'm not, you know, in an alternate universe kind of way, you know. Technically, here's what I think is interesting, is if you did it that way and you made it to where, let's say there was an associated token in that DAO, whether it's governance or whether it's a way to actually fund the politicians that you want to support through that token or whatever. Well, there's all these regulations about how, you know, you can only donate so much money to certain things or whatever. I don't know if that applies to PACs or not. Probably not.
It does.
But I was just thinking, like, you know, you wouldn't have to donate to the PAC at all. You could just buy the crap out of their token and enrich them, and then they have more power. Like, there's, you know, that's not probably I don't know if that violates something, but in, you know, in reality, it seems like you could actually do that, I think. I don't know. It's interesting.
You could do separation. I mean, for one thing, and I don't know, I'm not a lawyer, right? But I know that depending on how things are accounted for, like say a PAC, certain types of PACs can only accept so much money. Other types of PACs can accept unlimited money, but the types of PACs that can accept unlimited money in the United States can only do certain things. I think they can only do like a issue, like they can make commercials about an issue, and they can accept unlimited money and make any commercials they want, but they can't, I think, contribute then to individual candidate campaigns or something like that. Because I think those types of PACs are limited in how much you can put in, something like that.
And and I don't know, you probably don't know either, but can they accept a boat as a donation, or, you know, that kind of thing? Because if the assets that are held go up in value themselves outside of any donations, the treasury is more enriched all of a sudden because the assets gained value for whatever reason.
Right.
Then you don't have any donations coming in. Your assets just became worth more money. You know,
and if you want to get into
anyway,
totally. And if you want to get into the more, maybe the radical side of it, and I'm not, for the record, saying that I would do this, but it's a totally reasonable thing to consider that, the regulators, and this is one of the things that probably scares them about DAOs, or scares whoever holds power right now about DAOs, is that the thing about laws and regulations are that they're typically wielded by those that can reach out and grab the neck of the subjugated, right? So if I'm going to make a tremendous amount of laws, let's say I have a fictitious republic a fictitious nation that has essentially over time assembled so many laws that literally every person waking up in the morning has violated a law. Just by waking up, you got out on the wrong side of the bed, broke a law. You didn't turn your alarm clock off within 2 rings, you break a law. Why do we do this? It's the pattern, and Ron Paul wrote some stuff about this too. That effectively, when you have so many laws and nobody knows what they all are, and they're not transparent because only the lawyers know the laws and how to deal when you're in trouble, that's the same thing that the Romans had, where they didn't have a written constitution. That we at least have a written constitution. And who was it? There's an author, and I'm blank. He's a 3-letter name. He's a historian that wrote a bunch about how the Romans suffered because if someone tripped over your cart in the street and they knew a senator, you were screwed. Because if you didn't know a senator, there's no way to represent yourself in court, and you didn't know the laws. So effectively, you have all these issues, and let's say you had DAOs. No,
doesn't matter. I'm throwing you. I'm
I'll get it. I'll find it later. He's brilliant. Some of his stuff about the Greeks and Romans are just amazing stuff. I quote him in one of those articles. I think the one about the DAOs, maybe. That one way or another, a DAO, if it was anonymous, and the reason, therefore, that you need behavior, in my opinion, is if the behavior is on chain, it doesn't matter who it is. It doesn't even matter if they pretend like they have 3 accounts, because the number of accounts don't have individual votes. Only the behavior dictates the vote. So you could have 1,000 accounts, as long as they are all doing the behaviors that we deem appropriate to get these votes. Either throwing the money in or doing the things, volunteering, then you get the vote. Then all of a sudden, there is no neck to reach out and grab. You don't know who the hell is doing all that stuff. Yes, you might end up with an intel org that goes after and can collect enough data. It's like, oh, you know what? I think one of those accounts is Dave. I see him sweeping the side of the road constantly. I think that's him, right? But you still wouldn't be able to trace, but Dave voted against for this thing that we have a law against. And it's an interesting thing, right? Because all of a sudden you could totally free yourself from those systems. Then the thing you have to worry about is what is constantly used against this tech for, like, say, CBDCs. CBDCs are scary, and rightfully, a lot of people are scared about them. But there is a a huge loss in the fact that blockchain could make a CBDC, how do I say, valuable in a good way, if it weren't created by a central bank or by the government, right? If the people got together and said, here's how our currency is going to work, right, and we're going to have the ability to say, no, we're not going to inflate it, right? Or we're going to have the ability to say, here's how it's tracked. When I'm spending cash at my local farmer's market, I don't want you tracking how much I spend on eggs versus meat, right?
Yeah, it's crazy to me to think that I can't just. It's my money. It's our savings account that you're taking money out of by inflating the supply. You know what I mean? And we have no say over how much value you extract.
You're stealing from us every night.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I got no say in that.
It's not transparent. It's supposed to be audited, even by the law itself. And the thing that Ron Paul's been calling for forever to audit the Fed has never happened. It's not transparent. And it is. Yeah, it's the ultimate tax. It is okay, even if you hold the thing, you're losing money out of your own wallet. It's the thing that even crypto would never dream of doing, even in the craziest case where what you're holding is actually just going to be worth less. We're just going to keep blowing more of it out there. It's nuts.
That's what crypto is to me. It's a way, I believe, and this is a belief I have, I guess. It's not, I don't know any way to quantify or prove it, well, without blockchain anyway. But like, there are more good people than bad in the world, right? And without something like a public ledger with this kind of technology, there's always going to be the ability for the minority of bad people to control the majority of good people.
Yeah.
So when talking about the number of people in the world and talking about the DAO and all of that, would you be able to prevent multiple identities for a single person?
Totally. Now it's a measure, and there's it wouldn't be a DAO consideration itself. We have a whole thing on what we call factor, that proof of human, that essentially is a identity marketplace. And it's not where you're selling identities, but it's where your identity is provable, measurable, based upon the people who you're interacting with. It's a way to identify botnets and to put rewards like bounties, so that it would be kind of like having, like when you have insurance investigators that go in and figure out if somebody's cheating, that there would be bounties set up on the entire network for anybody to monetize going after and find. Because essentially, if as an example, the implementation, the vision would be, let's say Dave and I meet in real life, or even digitally. And this is just implementation. There are a lot of things you could do different, right? But essentially, I'm going to put up a factor, an identity factor that says, okay, I have brown eyes and I'm over 18, right? And Dave can say, okay, I can see both those things, so I'm going to sign that. And along with that, essentially, when we meet, we hold up the cameras. My camera uses the front facing to take a picture of me, and the rear facing to take a picture of him, and his does the opposite, right? Okay. Those go up. You end up on the network with facial recognition. Say, okay, that looks like Joe's face that we've seen over and over again. It looks like Dave's face over and over again. We are signing each other's, as proof that we were here with geospatial and whatever other data you want to throw in, as all evidence that we're both real and here. And when we do that, we're both rewarded with either half of a token or one token each. And if I have a really high value in a network, because I've met with thousands of people, the vast majority of that token goes into my wallet for use on doing other things on the system. And the smaller portion goes into bounty. Whereas let's say Dave is new, he's only met 10 other people. Okay. So the vast majority of that token goes into bounty and the smaller into his wallet. And essentially you build up a big bounty on this person. And any botnets would effectively be a bubble of, like, say, thousands of identities tied together by 20 others that are, the facilitators of that identity bot network. And you would then be able people would be able to identify that and go after and just basically grab all those bounties and mark all of those as bots. And,
And bots wouldn't be able to go identify or
no, they would. They would
other?
identify with each other, but they wouldn't be able to identify with real people. So the people with the high score, like when they come to me and try to get me to identify with a bot, I'm like, well, I'm not going to sign anything with them, right? So there's a bunch of stuff like that you can do, and that's just one thing that we're wanting to plug in. But by the way, it would also be backed with, okay, Joe also has registered a factor that I can't see all of it, but that we have various organizations who have vetted the fact that his passport is real. That's just one extra bit of evidence that you can score. Driver's license being real. He, went to the local sandwich shop and purchased something, even as an identity. This person walked in and bought this, and they can prove that they own these keys. Therefore, I can bet that's a real person, right? Things like that can be used in ways that don't blow the privacy out, right? So anyway,
that is really cool.
I don't know if people still do key signing parties anymore, but it reminds me of like a really hopped up key signing party.
That's what it is. With biometrics, if you want, with other factors tied in. It's not just you're signing my key; you're also signing things that you know about me. So
it's essentially signing party. Is this?
Oh yeah, that's like with like PGP encryption. Like if you have PGP encrypted email or GPG, same thing ish, and so that you can send and receive private emails over unencrypted email channels. You register on a key server, and then other people sign your public key with their private key, so that basically whenever you present yourself, like this email address is mine and here's my public key or whatever, you can have basically a vouch factor. Like not only is this somebody's, because anybody can spin up a private public key pair, but not anybody can go to a bunch of people and say, hey, this is really me. So it's a way to prove, to digitally sign a message that not only encrypts it, but also proves that yes, that's you.
Different world. You live in a different.
And that was done decades ago. You know what I mean?
That was a very open source, privacy focused, cypherpunk thing where it was needed in the world so that you can trust whether that's really the person they say they are. And what we're trying to do with Factor is essentially define a system that allows all of those capabilities expanded and in a way that's grandma safe, where it's I can take a picture of this person, and now I have my identity, and the bank teller is essentially vouching for me being a real person, right? So
the fact that this technology is that old and not used, and we have all these problems and issues in our country and the world is where it is today, enrages me.
Yeah, I don't know, Lisa. I think JPEGs really are the future, and what we should be using with or doing with blockchain. And frankly, I don't know what you guys are talking about. I think that
what did I say the other day? We were both bitching about something in one of our project chats, and I said something like JPEGs and DeFi had a baby, and it ruined gamers' perception of what an NFT is. That kind of thing.
Yep. And this is why number go up kills me, because it effectively railroads us everywhere. And it takes years to recover from that. Because now you can't get an easy start on a project that can be valuable. It's more than likely to fail. By far, we would have already had Factor set up and running, except that we're dealing with so much BS that is entirely focused because of the FOMO with crypto bros. So
I forgot what question we're actually answering right now. We're on. We've drifted a bit into.
Where are we?
All right.
There we go.
Here we go.
We need to get to I am. Yeah.
Oh, I am. We love I am. He's a lot of times he's on with Dave on coffee, on Den on Wednesday mornings.
You for that.
Yes, if you guys make sure you get over there and join Dave on Wednesday mornings.
We're getting our own layer. We're branching off. We're moving up in the world.
All right. So there'll be a possibility of layer ownership. I'll have to go sell more ETH.
Yep.
Okay.
You dropped in once, so I'm just going to give you some. Everybody, and this is off topic, I'll make it quick, but everybody who has ever participated in the coffee show, including yourself, I'll go look at the records and see, where it's all on chain. So we'll just, I don't want to use the word airdrop, but we will make sure that you're rewarded with ownership and voting rights in the new layer.
Awesome. Yeah, I really enjoy that. So I am says, is this possible? Imagine somebody runs for office whose platform is setting up a district representative DAO. This means they promise that they will set up a DAO whereby everyone must verify that they live in their district in order to vote on an issue. The representative that goes to Washington will only vote according to the DAO. In other words, if Pelosi said that they should or shouldn't vote for HR 123, this representative would only vote per the DAO's instructions. If they violate the DAO, vote the DAO. They violated the DAO's vote. The DAO could then recall their representative. Money would flow to the district to sway the DAO's voters and not directly to the lobbyist to influence the payoff representative. As more people get their news from alternative media, big corporations, lobbying money would get diffused and less influential. No party politics at that point. A true representative democracy, could be achieved. DAO votes could be tabulated around the country and would be most accurate polling possible. Could help build initial steps to retard the power of military complex big pharma. So kind of what we were already talking about, I think. But yeah, that's where
I think really well defined, though. I mean,
very well.
Definitely possible. Probably the hardest thing fitting in with the current system would be making sure that the DAO contributors were in the district, which would be important, very likely. You wouldn't want somebody from outside the district influencing your representative, right?
Yeah, that's where I was already thinking like Factor could serve that purpose. It doesn't necessarily fix gerrymandering. You're in the district that you're in at that point. But what I love about this is the second paragraph. Money would then flow to the district to sway the DAO voters and not directly to the lobbyists to influence or pay off the representatives. It's like, if you're going to use money to influence people's voting, at least make it like improve the lives of who you're manipulating. That kind of thing.
Yeah. And it would likely
have resources.
I bet something like this would likely be not absolutist, that it would be more like an influence that, this is the best way to know what my citizens, the people I represent, think. That essentially you would give that to everyone. Maybe you'd put behavior on it. You would do something. And it just make it more transparent, because you could. Here's the thing: I wouldn't say that you should have the politician say, "I'm going to set up a DAO." I think they should start with a DAO, and it should be: should I run? Sure, yes, you should run. Should I? Should we accept money from this group? They want us to do X. It's like, no, you shouldn't accept money from that group. Let's take money from this group instead. It should be the entire thing, and it would be odd because, other than the fact that some of the big money, pharma and whatever else, would likely not come to this candidate, which would be a negative, I would think you get a lot of attention doing this, and you should be able to get a lot of literal grassroots support by doing this to win that vote. And, you do have the problem that the elections are probably not sound also. So just getting that grassroots support doesn't necessarily mean you'll win, because who knows how you win anymore in the current voting systems. But
then I think it goes back to, I guess what we were saying before, like, do we even need the person? Then this cuts out the lobbyist in this scenario. So it's cutting out more and more of those middlemen, because the DAO really is giving the people the voice. And I guess that's where when we wanted to have this discussion, and when I first learned about DAOs and how they were structured, I was like, as long as we could fix the identity portion, which I'm really encouraged hearing you guys talk about this Factor and all of these behavioral mechanisms of, how that could all be structured. It really could work. It's just really encouraging to me because we really don't need all the middlemen. Each individual person could have their voice and it could be structured in a DAO. I don't know that we need the representatives. I don't know. And we certainly don't need the lobbyists. And I don't know that we even need the money because we need our voice is the currency.
Here's the other thing. You need the transparency because I think a lot of times people would probably make their voice heard if they knew what was really going on. But we don't know what's really going on because so much happens hidden and there have been representatives that have said, I'm going to tweet every vote. I'm going to tweet it. But the problem has never really been that. And that's at least a positive thing, but there was no tie. And I wish Greg was on because if you could feasibly legally make a tie that how this DAO votes, I will vote, right? I will, unless they tell me to do something illegal, I will do what this DAO tells me to do.
One of the really interesting things I think about this is that it's the opposite of what I said, how they just vote down party lines. It's literally making it the same where the candidate really doesn't matter that much because they're just going to do, they're kind of like a monkey throwing a switch. They'll do whatever they're told. It's based on what the DAO wants. So it's a very interesting concept.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Because when you say that, Sean, you know what it actually, the funny thing is it kind of spells out that the DAO is essentially taking the role of whoever the hell are holding the strings right now.
Yeah.
Right. In this case, because right now it's the same thing. It's, it's either a big pharmaceutical company or military industrial that's telling that representative who's supposed to represent you, they're telling them how to vote because they're the ones paying. If you want this money so you can beat your opponents and you don't want me to give them the money, you're going to vote this way. That this would essentially replace that with the DAO. And if we could say, if there were some, attorney out there that could define that could say, let's make a legal arrangement and get precedence on it that would say this representative is legally bound to do what this DAO says. And then, you have to solve the identity issues with the DAO and you have to solve a few other issues with, funding and things like that. But that could really work. It's cool.
I think it's very cool. Very, very cool. Let's see. So yes, we believe it is possible, right? Thank you. I am. That was a great question. Let's see. Bingo. So can DAOs really be, Chad asks, can DAOs really be city states? I believe they can.
Yeah, what's the path to that? Like, is there an existing path to that today, or is this something we would have to lobby a politician to pass legislation to allow this particular formation of a city to register and be, a thing? Is that a thing in the U.S.?
I don't know.
Well, you know what? It doesn't have to be in the U.S.
Where is that in our Constitution? What is the? I don't know how a
constitutional city states. Yeah, I'm not super read up on what a constitutional city state even is.
I think the only
in Wyoming.
Oh, well, I think the only city states, like real city states that exist today would be like the Vatican and London and maybe DC, right? The three prongs of wherever the hell that thing is.
Yeah.
But they are literally city states. That's what they are, just like Athens was. Just so it's a regional thing. So now I don't know if a DAO can, for example, demarcate and say we own this territory and this is the law in this territory, unless
didn't Disney used to have their own government of their
all the way that
recently, but the point though is I think maybe that we're trying to define a virtual city state, where it's not ground in a line that you can draw on Earth. It is a conceptual thing that the people, and we might all be in one region, but we're going to do this thing, whatever this DAO's goals are, and we're going to get together and we're going to, close to what you would call a corporation in most places, and it's close, but it would be slightly different, right? So I don't know.
Berwick did that Lieberland thing.
Yeah.
But didn't they had physical property somewhere, didn't they?
Well,
tied to
they
that?
get arrested every time they go there to get, at least in the back in the day. I talked to them way back because I was hoping to get them to do some of this stuff, and they're awesome. I support them, at least from what I know. But every time they would cross one of those borders to get in, they would get arrested, if I remember right. So it's all
there's
contested.
that also, and Sean brought it up in the past too, that Christiania or whatever that's in whatever country, Denmark.
Yeah, Copenhagen has Christiania.
Yeah, and
the United States has a Slab City.
Yeah. Is that New Mexico or somewhere?
California.
Christiania doesn't even pay like state taxes or anything, property taxes and all that. Like they're totally like legit.
And I think a lot of it depends upon your frame of reference, because like there are several real countries in the world that are not, what do I want to say, recognized by the larger countries as their own countries. So does that mean that they're not countries? So you would essentially say at some point, a DAO might be recognized by the United States officially, right? That'd be another adoption goal, right? We want to create a DAO that gets represented by the United States, ends up having a seat at the United Nations or some stupid thing. I'm joking. But that's possible, right? At some point. It's kind of crazy, but it's entirely possible.
There's a lot of bypassed and going extinct small towns in the U.S. for sure. I just wonder, if a bunch of people that had this new asset class could get together and move there, and just kind of like take over the place, you could just naturally do it.
True. Now, I've always wondered why several of the Indian nations haven't done this. I think they could essentially have a remarkable amount of power and independence by saying, you know what we're going to do? No capital gains tax. You come in here, you do this, you can build a business. We're only going to tax you this much, and there's not going to be any BS like you have with the rest. And guess what? You don't pay federal income taxes in the United States if you're in one of these Indian nations. If they did that, it'd be gangbusters. It would be like Kuala Lumpur. It's like you'd have skyride. It'd be crazy.
So are you following any of the McGirt stuff in Oklahoma? There's a huge Supreme Court case going on with the Cherokee Nation, or I guess it's affecting all the Indian nations, but against the U.S. or the state of Oklahoma and the U.S. versus the Indian nations.
Is it based on lottery or something?
No, it actually has to do with this man who horribly harmed his stepdaughter, and the state wants to go after him, and he's trying to claim that he shouldn't be because she's an Indian, and so only the Indians should go after him or something. Anyway, it's all being like repealed and pulled back. Anyway, it's affecting everything, and part of it came back. They're going through each piece of it, and part of it came out that now the Fed can't tax the Indians anymore. And it's all being done very quietly. Every once in a while, I see an article about it. I see another article about it. Then I'm like, I don't know. There's something more going on there. So
just it sounds like they're trying to dissect or just identify, what system of laws applies to what
applies to that and to that property.
Well, if they're independent nations, I don't think the Fed should be able to do anything.
So it's like an extradition case almost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty wild. But it's like half the state,
Yeah.
So.
And by the way, the thing that bothers me about that is that putting that type of a case in is a negative. I mean, the Indian nations should probably, if he's tried, they should convict him and hang him if he did something bad like that, and say, nope, it's our law. That's it. And there's, by the way, probably what most Americans would want as well in their own districts.
Yeah.
But anyway,
it's going to end up exposing a lot more. But yeah,
wow.
that gets away from.
I'll have to look that up. I'm not familiar with that case.
Yeah.
I think that they're very limited, though, on what they can do, because what Joe was talking about would be amazing. And I've always, they're not separate nations. They're kind of, hey, Greg.
Yeah.
Just got back from my appointment, and I want to just jump on and say hi real fast.
Well, congrats on the good report.
Yep, absolutely.
We're glad that you do not have skin cancer.
Oh, nice. Very
Good.
good.
Read that. Awesome.
Yes.
Good news.
Excellent.
Indeed.
Right. Okay. Well, we're almost at time. I don't know if you want to cut out or if you want to. We could let Greg give an answer on all of the topics.
Yeah. Do you want to give a quick review of your dissertation on there?
Oh, it's actually all right. I just wanted to come and say hi to you guys and let everybody know that I'm not, in fact, dying of anything. So, just in case everybody's watching who know and care, and just want to talk to you guys. So,
no, we are all dying at different rates. So, just in normal, that's what life is.
Right. The cake lyric, right?
Is it? I didn't even know that.
Once you're born, you start dying, so you might as well have a good time, right?
That is great news. That is great news. So in closing, I guess, want to hit up everybody and see what is new and going on. Greg, since you're last in, you want to be first out?
Sure. Yeah. Well, not dying. That's really good.
Not dying. Yeah.
Well, not dying any faster than usual. So, and Rivet is about to launch the new pricing and the new website early next week. So stay tuned for that. And also, as far as DAOs and city states might be concerned, consider it, because the idea behind Mega Texas was this concept of radically local secession. And there is a certain amount of power that municipalities and counties can wield that they just typically don't, but that they can entirely. And DAOs can facilitate that in a way that none of our structures that we have invented so far can. It's a powerful tool, and it's really just waiting for people with the courage to try it.
Yep. Courage.
Love it. You guys can check out, if you look up or Google Mega Texas on Reddit or just anywhere, you'll be able to read through Greg's ideas of that. And it's really, really exciting. Satoshi Sean, my buddy, my friend, everyone's friend. What's going on with you, bud?
I have a show later today that I'm doing for your Patreon about DeFi. Yes,
thank you.
I have a stream on Huobi tonight. Forget what it's about, but it's tonight on the Huobi app. I think I might stream it to my channel. I don't know. Then I'm going to try to do the I think I am dying. I'm pretty sure. Actually, I've been arguing with my kids about don't want me to go to the hospital, but I haven't slept yet. From the other day.
You need to stop playing the games and get some more sleep, Sean.
I'm not, dude. I laid in my bed for 8.5 hours last night and didn't ever sleep. And then I feel fidgety. But I'm gonna try to get the crypto meme review done today, and then the other 2 streams. So hopefully I can get a nap in if I can fall asleep.
Okay, I sent you a couple memes, so hopefully that'll help out.
I'll use them.
All right, Dave, what is up with you?
Right. So the most recent Den.Social development was that we have anonymity features now. So we're in the process of voting in which layer. So everybody on Den, each individual community is its own DAO. So even though Den as a whole developed at the direction of the community, by the way, because it's also a DAO, developed this new tool set or this feature now the individual DAOs have to decide if they want to use it or not. So it's not just like imposed on everyone. It's like, hey, do you want to allow anonymous posts? Do you not want to allow anonymous posts? Do you only want to allow anonymous posts? And so it does some interesting things with the economy. It does some interesting things with how rewards are calculated. So yeah, there's proposals that have been passing I've seen already. And so, yeah, people are turning on their anonymity options. And so we'll see what comes out of that. So now, you know, even if you have a pseudonym, like I've got a pseudonym, but it's obviously me. You know what I mean? And on Den, I'm distant. On the internet, I'm distant. So, okay, that's Dave, obviously. But if I wanted to say something politically incorrect, or not mean, but just like something that I feel like is important to say or get out there, you know, maybe I'll click the little anonymous button and I'll say, look, let's be real, you know, yada, yada, yada. I'm not inviting people to be mean. I'm just saying that there are some things where people are silenced because they're afraid of social feedback. So we're trying to, you know, allow a conversation where people may not feel free to speak. So anyway, with that, we have another, it's not out yet, but coming around, we'll have another DAO vote on priorities, feature prioritization, and we'll start working on the next thing. And we don't know what the next thing is yet because you've got to go vote for it. So go sign up for Den. It's a free account. We do not harvest or sell your data. There's no targeted advertising. It is a safe place in that regard. So sign up, earn some reputation, you know, be behaviorally good, and you'll be able to tell us what to do. So there's my pitch.
I love it.
That's awesome.
Joe, yeah. Joe, what's going on? And do you have any positive feedback updates with the case?
Oh, we have no feedback at all so far about the case. You know, we're still waiting. So we'll see. I mean, hopefully, I hope that the SEC got that letter and they thought, oh, we didn't know this. We didn't. I know there's a lot of stuff they didn't know that's in that letter. But you know, I hope that they loved it and shared it themselves and retweeted it and everything else, right? Who knows, right? It's all it's an American story. But about the anonymity, I'm interested to see, you know, because 4chan is famous for being toxic, right? But within the toxic content, you have a lot of truth and a lot of things that people can't say elsewhere, and that's why it's there. So here's the experiment. I'm wondering, in some of these layers that allow the anonymity, what will the culture become like? Because you're going to have some honesty, but there's already, for whatever reason, it's a very mature, reasoned place, Den, that there's not a ton of, you know, there's some drama, of course, they're always humans, but there's not a lot of like anger and, you know, negativity. So I'm hopeful that maybe it'll be a good mix. I don't know. But we'll see. It'll be fun. And I think we should also, we can't give them anything, but whoever posts gets the first anonymous question voted up for the roundtable should get some massive kudos that they can just hold internally and know, okay, I got that. That was me, yeah. Right? It'll be fun. But otherwise,
that's still a reward. The vibes, yeah,
it is.
Yeah.
It's real karma. It's not fake karma on Reddit, yeah. Right? And then the other side would be that for updates, we are going to be next Tuesday celebrating, and it's not going to be much of a celebration, but we're going to be celebrating our 3 years of updates on a show that everybody hates, which is Super Happy Dragon Lucky. And you know, we've had a lot of interviews. We've interviewed McAfee. We've interviewed Mishinsky. We've interviewed, a presidential candidate on there. 2 presidential candidates.
You even had Pomp on there one time.
We had Pump on there. He's actually a really good guy. I think he's legit. Of all of the people, I kind of give him credit because it's so easy to say go Bitcoin because, you know, nobody's like, oh, the maximalists are going to come after you. He's like, go Bitcoin. It's a very easy job, right? That gig is he's smart
same
guy.
Time though, like,
right?
He has a newsletter that really acknowledges the power of decentralization in a way that you
paid for it for a while. It's good.
From like the I refuse to say that there's anything outside of Bitcoin maxi crowd.
Like, Yeah, he's legit. I do.
So obnoxious
Yeah.
that they never say.
And he's a family guy too. I mean, he's a real person. It's not like he's a typical. So
those were
so
my
anyway,
favorite. Yeah, those were my favorite
it's 3
videos.
years.
When he did lunch. He did little lunch videos with his. It was his fiance at the time, but those were my favorite videos.
Yes.
She's adorable.
Well, and so we've been 3 years, and in the Dragon Chain world, you have to understand you can be all about fundamentals, and you're going to get called out for shilling. You can be all about we have people who complain that we were overly shilled because of Disney. It's just all of this, nothing, and then at the same time, we'll have people in the very same conversation talk about how we don't market enough, that there's not enough out there about us. And much the same, it blows my mind and pisses me off when these idiots get on typically Telegram, but sometimes elsewhere, Twitter maybe, and said, we don't ever update anybody about anything. And everybody's like, every fucking week for 3 years, I've been on this show. Dave took my place last week, I think it was. It's like one of the
show
rare
must go on, man. The show must go on.
And so we're doing an update every goddamn week with an AMA, and yet people say they don't update the community enough. And he's like, anyway, people are horrible and stupid. And anyway, that's the thing.
All at the same time.
Yeah, but more of them. The real people are wonderful, right? And all you guys are amazing, and everybody watching is amazing. By the way, it's not about any of you. So, one way or another, it's going to be. We're going to keep doing it until we can't anymore, until they pull our account or something.
The best part about haters is they're really committed fans. They're rain or shine. It's just that they're kind of.
They're always there, man. They're reliable.
Speaking of memes, they say like if you're still
I'm in the middle of a
watching
move too, so I might be not available next week for the show. Dave might have to do it again. He probably just now heard this, but we had a delay in one of the trucks, so I'm still in Washington State, and soon we will be moving. But one way or another, those updates are important. And the AMAs are usually really good. There's a lot of sometimes they're hard questions to answer, but you get to listen to me mostly monotone. But probably this week it'll be Dave, at least maybe. So
yeah, it looks like I'm free. So yeah,
good news.
So, anyway,
all right. Well, so thank you guys all for joining us, and make sure you guys join the World Blockchain Roundtable Lair in Den to be able to ask questions for next week. Next week's theme is pitfalls of celebrity shilling. Speaking of all the shilling going on, make sure to share this episode. The more you share, the more lot our hosts and topic contributors will get. So like, comment, and subscribe, and make sure you guys all come to Oklahoma City to support Team Mighty and hear Greg sing. And Satoshi Sean said he might join us.
Feel like Tom Waits comes.
Nice.
Hey, get your neighbors to go vote locally.
Yes.
Very important.
Get involved in your community. Yeah. So thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Because that goal will serve to organize and measure the best.
Adaptable, raw capital, label radical yet rational. A tactical approach is palpable if this animal is fallible, but that conclusion is laughable. So with for all detachable from the mandible, you see it now.